Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Plush Pumpkin Basket, which is a free pattern you'll find on mooglyblog.com. You can click the link below or go to your favorite search engine and simply type in Moogly Plush Pumpkin Basket, and it should come right up. This pattern can be made in your choice of either of these two gorgeous yarns, Bernat Plush Big or Bernat Plush. They're very similar, having the same construction, but come in two very different sizes. You can see by following the same pattern and simply changing only the hook size and the yarn, just how different the sizes of these two baskets are. This one obviously made using the Bernat Plush, and this one made using the Bernat Plush Big. Because they are such different sized yarns, you do need different sized hooks, of course. With the Bernat Plush Big, I used a 16mm crochet hook, and with the Bernat Plush, I used a USK, also known as a 6.5mm crochet hook. Both of these happen to be by Susan Bates. Now, obviously, I used two colors for each of these. You've got your base color for most of the pumpkin, and just a few yards necessary to make the stem. But you get both of these pieces, a lovely base and a lid, so you can stash whatever you like inside your very own pumpkin basket. Let's get started. Let's start by making the bottom of our basket. So with our main color, our pumpkin color, we start by making a magic circle. I take the end of the yarn and wrap it over my non-hook forefinger twice towards me. Then I insert my hook underneath the farthest loop there. Pull it just to the other side. You can see how I'm using the rest of my hand to anchor the rest of the yarn there. Then I yarn over and pull a loop through. And then I begin back with my instructions, which say to chain 1 and work 6 single crochets into the ring. So for each one of those stitches, I want to make sure that I go under the loop that goes all the way around my finger and under that tail end of the yarn, because that's the part we'll pull on to close up our magic circle. So I finished making my almost finished making my first single crochet. You can see with this thicker yarn, I can go ahead and pull my finger out if you need to. So let's try that again. Pull that loop up and through. There we go, our first single crochet into the ring. So we need to make 5 more. So let's go ahead and do that. Go in for 1. And you can see with this bigger yarn, this is the Plush Big. It takes a little bit more time. You want to really kind of pull each of those loops of yarn up around the stitch or ring, whatever you're working into. Kind of give that little extra tug there, and that will help you out quite a bit. So let's see here. You can see I'm making sure to catch that tail end in each of these stitches. So let's see. We now have, starting back here at the beginning, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 1 more single crochet. If you're running out of room, you can kind of scooch them on over here. Make room for 1 more. And there we go. We've now got our 6 single crochets into the ring. We can pull on that tail and close it all up nice and tight. And then we can join to that first one with a slip stitch. But before I do that, I want to grab my stitch markers here. And this is a great big yarn, so I'm just going to mark the front loop of the stitches that I'm marking so I don't accidentally break my stitch markers. But I'll mark the first and last stitch of each round. That really helps me keep track so I don't accidentally work into the slip stitch when I don't want to. So we can see that's the stitch we joined to. We can go ahead and pull that stitch marker out for the moment if we want, while we make our slip stitch. There we go. And now we know that we're going to work our first stitch of the next round right in that stitch that we joined to. But this is what it should look like at the end of round 1 of the bottom of the basket. For the next round, we're working 3 double crochets in each stitch around. Normally, I'd work the first one of these as a chainless starting double crochet to make it a little bit nicer. But this is going to be on the bottom of a basket, so I'm going to do something just a little bit easier. Today, I'm instead going to pull up on that loop and just do a really tall chain 1. Need to pull up a little bit more yarn here from my skein. We did go through this one a little bit quicker because it is so big and fluffy. But then I can just go ahead and start crocheting. So if you'd prefer to chain 2, chain 3 as your first double crochet, or use that fancier chainless starting double crochet, you can do that instead. I'm just going to go ahead, yarn over, and go right into that first stitch for our first double crochet. So as I finish that first double crochet, I will go ahead and mark the front loop there of that one So I know that is the first stitch of this round. Then I need to put 2 more double crochets right into that same stitch. There we go. Now you can see here I am working pretty tightly. We're making a basket. This yarn usually calls for a much bigger hook. The one I'm using again is a 16 millimeter. So it's going to make tighter stitches. A little bit stiffer fabric, but that's exactly what we want in a basket. So you can see here, now I've got 3 double crochets in that stitch. Time to move on to the next one. I'll put 3 double crochets in there. I'll do that in every stitch around until we have a total of 18 double crochets for round 2, and I'll see you when we get to the end of this round. So here we are at the end of round 2. You can see I've joined with a slip stitch, and we have a total of 18 double crochets in that round. So now we're ready for round 3. To begin round 3, we start with a chain 1. I'm going to go ahead and take the stitch marker out of the way. And then we single crochet in the first stitch. So this is the stitch I'll go ahead and put my stitch marker in right there. And then we double crochet in the next stitch. So there's 1 double crochet. And then we work 2 double crochets in the stitch after that. So there's 1 and 2. And again, we've talked a little bit about how these stitches are tight and this hook's a little small for this yarn. If you need to take a break, pause the video, put it down, come back to it a little bit later. It's totally fine. Oops, lost my stitch marker there. It is totally fine if you need to take a little bit of a break and stretch your hands every once in a while when working with bigger yarns. But that said, this is our repeat for this round. Single crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the stitch after that, 2 double crochets in the third stitch. Remember, we worked 3 double crochets in each stitch, so that helps you keep track. The first one, we work a single crochet into. The second one, we work 1 double crochet into. So there's 1. And then in the third one, we work 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, right in that same stitch. There we are. So we just repeat that all the way around. Single crochet, 2 double crochets until we've worked all the way around, and we will have a total of 24 stitches for round 3. So I'll see you there. All right, so here we are at the end of round 3. You may notice that it's wanting to start to cup up like this, and that's fine. That's what we want. We want it to look like a pumpkin. Now, as you're crocheting, it might curve this way. Always happens to me. Not a big deal. We are crocheting this one, however, all from the right side out. So the finished one will go this way. It's easy to remember. Your tail end will be on the inside. So now I've gone ahead and joined that first single crochet, finishing up round 3. So now we're ready to begin round 4. We're going to continue working repeats to grow our pumpkin a little bit bigger. So we start with a chain 1, and again, single crochet in the first stitch. You'll notice a pattern here that will really help you keep your way if you get a little bit lost. So let's go ahead and mark that first single crochet there. And then we continue our repeat with a double crochet in the next stitch. There we are, 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Very familiar so far. But then we finish up our repeat here. Whoop, get that one done there. With a double crochet in the next stitch. So as before, we were working to those sets of 3, but we increased. Now we're working into sets of 4. So our repeat is single crochet, 2 double crochets, double crochet. So let's do that all again together one more time. Single crochet, it's going to be in the previous single crochet. Double crochet in the next. 2 double crochets in the one after that. A little bit more yarn pulled up here. This yarn is pretty slick, so it does like to slide around on my tabletop here, but I like to be able to control the tension with my hands a little bit more. There we go. So that's our 2 double crochets in that stitch, and we finish it up with a double crochet in the next. There we go. And if we look at the previous row, we can see that brought us right back to the single crochet. So we begin that series again, And we do that all the way around for a total of 30 stitches in round 4. So I'll see you when we get to the end of round 4. And here's what your pumpkin basket should look like after round 4. We've made a total of 30 stitches. And you can see it's starting to take on sort of that scalloped appearance and is also forming a nice bowl shape here. So let's continue on with round 5, which will be our last increase round for this part of this pattern. We start with a chain 1, and then, of course, we begin our repeat again with a single crochet in the single crochet. So I want to make sure to move my stitch marker on up to this new first stitch of the row. There we go. And then we continue with a double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 in that stitch, and then 1 in the next stitch. And then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2. So that's our increase in this repeat. Get that one in there. There we go. And then finally a double crochet in the next. And to double check, we can see that brings us right back to that single crochet. So our repeat for round 5 is single crochet, double crochet, 2 double crochets, double crochet. Let's do that one more time together. Single crochet, followed by double crochet, followed by double crochet, followed by 2 double crochets. Pull up a little bit more yarn here. 1 and 2. Those are in the same stitch. And then finally finish our repeat with a double crochet in the next stitch. There we go. Then we begin again with our single crochet in the single crochet. So I will see you when we get to the end of round 5, and we'll have a total of 36 stitches. And here we've reached the end of round 5 with a total of 36 stitches, and your basket should be pulling up nicely into a basket shape. However, if you are using the Bernat Plush Big, you'll notice that on round 6, we're going to need to add another skein. So you've got a couple of options with this yarn, as well as with the Bernat Plush. You can weave in your ends as you normally would with any other yarn. You might have a little bit of fuzz sticking out the end, but it's probably going to be okay, especially on something like this basket, which has a lot of tension in the stitches. However, you can also sew down your ends. After you've woven them in, simply take a bit of matching sewing thread and a sewing needle and sew those ends down for extra security. Or you can take that same sewing needle and thread and sew your 2 ends together, the end of one skein to the beginning end of the next skein. I would just overlap them slightly like this and then sew back and forth several times with that sewing thread. Then you can just continue crocheting as if it's all one strand. The risk is that this lump where you've sewn the 2 together will end up being on the outside of your basket. So for this particular project, personally, I prefer to weave in and then sew down my ends separately. But if you prefer, you can certainly sew those ends together and just keep on crocheting. So with all that said, let's begin round 6. Rounds 6, 7, and 8 are all the same, and we're no longer increasing. We're building up the sides of our pumpkin. So we're still going to have 36 stitches in each of these rows. And each of them proceed as follows. We start with a chain 1, and then single crochet right back in that single crochet from the previous round. And since it's our first one, we can go ahead and put our stitch marker in there. There we go. And then we continue by double crocheting in the next 5 stitches. Remember, no more increases. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Basically, we double crochet in the double crochets and single crochet in the single crochets. So that's our first repeat. We've got our single crochet, 5 double crochets, brings us back to a single crochet. We do it again. Single crochet, 5 double crochets. Do this all the way around for rounds 6, 7, and 8. And I'll see you when we're ready for round 9. So here we are with the first 8 rounds of the bottom of our pumpkin basket finished. You can see we've built up the sides, and now we're ready for our final round, which is going to draw in the top just a little bit before we make the lid. We're also coming to the end of our skein, so when you go to make the lid, I recommend you start with a fresh one so you have less ends to weave in on the lid. But we should have enough to finish up round 9 of our bottom. This round is a little different. We're going to be working in single crochets and single crochet 2 togethers, but it starts off a little unusually. We're going to start with a chain of 2, 1, 2, and we're then going to skip the first 2 stitches. So that's our first one there with our stitch marker in it, and then the stitch after that. We come to the very next stitch, and we're going to single crochet in that stitch and then in the next 2. So we're beginning our repeat right here with 1, 2, 3 single crochets. And if you look at where we're putting these single crochets, let me move this up here a little bit, you can see that's in the center of that series of 5 double crochets from the previous row. So we're working our single crochets into the center of those 3 double crochets right there. Then we're going to single crochet 2 together, skipping a stitch in between the 2 legs. So what does that look like? We're going to single crochet 2 together, working into the next double crochet, skip the single crochet, and the double crochet after that. So we insert our hook in the last of this series of 5 double crochets right here, yarn over and pull up our loop, skip the single crochet, go to the next double crochet, insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, then we can yarn over and pull through all 3, like so. Then we do that again. We begin our repeat again. The chain 2 we just did at the beginning, so our repeat begins with single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, a little bit more yarn here, and 3. And then we single crochet 2 together in the next double crochet, skip the single crochet, and go to the double crochet after that. Then we begin our repeat again. So let's do that one more time. Single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we single crochet 2 together. Start in the next double crochet, pull up a loop, skip the single crochet, go to the double crochet after that, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So do that a few more times, and as we get to the end, I'll rejoin you to finish up round 9. Here you can see we've got just a few stitches left, so we're ready for our final repeat. I've just done my single crochet 2 together, so there's those center 3 double crochets right there. So we're going to single crochet in each of those, just like we have been all the rest of the round here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. You can see this brings us to that last marked stitch right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull out my stitch markers now to get them out of the way. But I want to take kind of a visual note of where they were here, because I'm going to do my single crochet 2 together. I work in that next double crochet right there. And then I'm going to just skip over all this right here. You can see right there was our marked stitch where we joined 2. We're going to skip that. That's the single crochet. Go to that next double crochet right there. And I'm just going to work right over that chain 2. Right there. Let it just sit right on top of that stitch. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So you can see we skipped over that very first double crochet, or excuse me, that very first single crochet of the previous row, and we crocheted right over that chain 2. So visually it's just disappeared. After that, we can break our yarn. So let me grab those scissors here. And I'm going to make sure to leave a good amount of length here, at least 6 to 8 inches or so, since we're working with an unusual yarn. And I can cut that. I pull up on that loop, and then I can use my hook or my fingers, or if you're using the Bernat Plush, you can use your yarn needle. This one's a little bit big for most of my yarn needles, and I'm simply going to insert the end of my yarn under the top 2 loops of the next stitch here, pull it gently through, and then pull that yarn end right back into the center of the stitch it came out of, like so. There we go. Then I can weave that in some more and sew that end in, and now we're ready to make our lid. To begin the lid, we're going to start at the stem, so you can pick up whichever color you wanted to use for your stem. We're going to start again with a magic circle. So I go over my forefinger twice towards me, get under those loops, pull it forward, and pull it through. If you don't like using the magic circle, you can do a chain 2 and work into the first chain, or however you like to do it, a circle pattern in your preference. So I'm going to start here with a chain 1 and then work 5 single crochets right into that magic circle. Again, I want to make sure I go under that tail. There we are. Always takes a little extra effort with the big hook, but there we go. We get it pulled through. And now I can pull my finger out. It's nice and locked together. So there's 1. And for this round, we're doing 5, not 6, but 5 single crochets into the round here. So there's our first 2. And we'll go 3. Make sure that tail stays in there, and we pull up those stitches nice and high. 4 and 5. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and pull that center tail in here nice and tight for the top of our stem. And I'm going to go ahead and mark the first and last stitch. I'll mark the first one here as I begin the next one. So for now, I'll just mark the last stitch here of round 1. So to finish up round 1, we do want to join with a slip stitch. That's why I left that stitch marker out of the way. Easier to get in there without that stitch marker in there. There we go. And then for round 2, we're going to chain 1 and work a single crochet through the back loop only of each stitch. We're not increasing at all, just a back loop only single crochet in each stitch around. This is going to form the top of our stem and immediately start pushing down into the length of our stem. So we go right under that back loop. Remember, when we look at a stitch, the front loop is the one closest to us, the back loop is the one furthest away. So we want to put our hook right in the center of that stitch so we catch just that back loop and make our single crochet. Then we can go ahead and mark that first stitch if you like. There we go. And then we just continue to do that all the way around. So there's 1, we go to the next stitch, back loop only single crochet, there's 2 and 3. You'll see it's cupping up on me. That's okay. We can always just flip it over here in a moment. 4. And then of course 5 will be the one with our stitch marker in it. Now you can see how it's really cupping up quite a bit like this, and pretty soon it's going to be really hard to get to this tail end to weave it in. So now is a good time to weave it in, or if you want to make sure to work over it in your next several stitches or sew it down, now is a good time to do that. Once you've got it secured to your satisfaction, then you can pop that stem back, right side out, and then you can continue working from the right side. After we join with our slip stitch here at the end of round 2, there we are. You can see this one's a little bit more struggle here, but we want to pull it through, get it nice and pulled through to create that stem shape. There we are. So that is what it should look like at the end of round 2. For round 3, we simply start with a chain 1, and then working under both loops again, we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch around. So still no increases, just 5 single crochets total for round 3. So I want to again make sure I mark that first one, and then just go under both of those loops for each stitch around, and I'll see you at the end of round 3. So here we are finished with round 3 of our stem. If you wanted a taller stem, you can go ahead and add more rounds, but at this point, I'm ready to start building up my lid. So for round 4, we want to chain 1, and we're actually going to work 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So let me pull that first stitch marker out of the way, and we go right into that first stitch with our first one. Go ahead and mark that first stitch now for this round. There we go. And then I will put a second single crochet right in that very same stitch. And we're going to do that in each stitch around here for round 4. That would bring us to a total of 10 stitches. But we're going to break sort of a cardinal rule of crochet on this round of this lid. We are going to work into each stitch, and we're also going to very purposefully work into the slip stitch that joined the previous round. That's something we usually try to avoid when working in the round. It's not usually part of the pattern that we work into, but for this particular point in this particular pattern, we are going to work into that slip stitch that joined the previous round. Like I say, this is an unusual move and it's not standard. So here you can see I've come to that final stitch here with our stitch marker in it. So I'm going to go ahead and move that stitch marker out of the way and put my 2 single crochets right in there. And now normally that would be the last stitch and we'd join, but we only have 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I need 2 more to set myself up for the next round. So I'm going to go ahead and work 2 more single crochets right into that slip stitch. So there's 1, and there's 2, and that brings us up to 12. And then we can go ahead and finish up this portion of our stem, because here at the end of round 4, we're done with this color. So I'm going to set that down for a moment while I grab my scissors. And once again, I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a good 6 to 8 inches. But this is all we need of the green, so we can set that one aside. Then I want to go ahead and finish up this section just as I did on the other one. I'm going to pull that yarn end up and through, but this time, instead of joining to the first stitch where I've got my stitch marker, I need a specific number of stitches. I want to have 12 stitches to set myself up for the next round. So instead, I'm going to send this through the second stitch of the round. So I just go right under those top 2 loops. Now I'll go ahead and move that stitch marker out of the way. And I'm going to pull that loop to about the size of a stitch. And you'll notice that as I form this loop and I go back down into the stitch here, this loop that I'm creating is just going to overlay that very first stitch. So this way it will still look like a seamless join, but we won't change our stitch count at all. We just pull that through and you can see it just disappears like the rest of the stitches. We can weave in this end and then we're ready to join our color A again. So here's our little stem and we're ready to go back to color A to make the rest of the lid. We're going to join with a single crochet. So the way I like to do that is I like to loop my yarn over like that. Let me do that one more time. I'm going to come in several inches from the end here and just loop it over itself, kind of as if I was going to be starting a slip knot. Then I simply slip my hook from behind into that loop. I can hold onto these ends and go ahead and start stitching into my project with a stitch. So we're going to pick any stitch around, really genuinely does not matter which stitch, and we're going to join by inserting our hook into just the back loop only of that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, give it a little tug here, get our stitches down next to each other, or our loops rather, yarn over and pull through. And now you can see we've joined with a single crochet. So now what we want to do is work 2 single crochets in the next stitch, again, staying in the back loop only for this round. So there's 1 and 2, and that's our repeat for this round. 1 back loop only, single crochet in the next, 2 back loop only, single crochets in the one after that. So there's 1 and 2. Let's do that one more time together. 1 back loop only, single crochet in the next, and 2 in the stitch after that. 1 and 2. So we continue this all the way around. Join with a slip stitch when you get to the end. And at the end of round 5 here, you'll have a total of 18 single crochets. For round 6 of our lid, we're going to follow the instructions for round 3 of our bottom. So as a refresher, that one goes chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch. And of course, we want to go ahead and mark that first stitch there. There we go. Then we double crochet in the next stitch. So there's 1. Pull up some more of the yarn here. You'll see I've started a whole new skein of the orange for this portion of the lid here. So there's 1. And then double crochet two double crochets in the stitch after that. So it's single crochet, double crochet, then 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2, back in that same stitch. There we are. That's our repeat. Single crochet, 2 double crochets. Continue that again all the way around for a total of 24 stitches in this round of your lid. So this is what your lid should look like at the end of round 6, which is a repeat of round 3 of the bottom. For round 7, we'll repeat round 4. So for that one, I've got my chain 1 here, and then we are going to single crochet right in that first stitch. Mark that first stitch again. Double crochet in the stitch after that. 2 double crochets in the stitch after that. So there's 1 and 2. Grab some more yarn, there we go. And then finally, double crochet in the stitch after that. And now it's easier to check our work too, because we've kind of reestablished that pattern. You can see we're back at a single crochet. So that's where we start our repeat again. Single crochet, 2 double crochets, double crochet, all the way around for a total of 30 stitches. So I'll see you when we get to the end of this round. So here we finished round 7 of our lid, which was just like round 4 of our bottom and has a total of 30 stitches. So to finish up our lid, we have just one more round to go, round 8, which will be just like round 5 of our bottom. So to make that round, we're going to start again with our chain 1. And then our repeat for this round is single crochet in the single crochet. Here it's our first one, so we're going to go ahead and mark that with our stitch marker again. There we go. And then to continue our repeat, we double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2. There we go. Then we double crochet twice in the next stitch. So once and twice. And then finally double crochet in the next stitch. We can always double check that we did that right by going back and saying, yep, the next stitch is a single crochet. So we're ready to begin that repeat again. Single crochet, double crochet in the next 2 double crochets in the next, double crochet in the one after that. Single crochet, 2 double crochet, 2 double crochets, double crochet for a total of 36 stitches all around. When we get to the end, we can do that seamless join to make it look pretty again, and we'll be all set with our pumpkin basket. So here we are. I have finished the final round of the lid, so I'm ready to go ahead and cut my yarn. You can see there's not much left on this skein, so we can go ahead and set that one aside. To finish it up, I'm again going to just pull up on that loop. Go ahead and get that stitch marker out of the way. I'm going to take that end, send it under the top 2 loops there of that very first stitch. Pull the loop down, and then send that end right back through that same stitch right there. And then you can pull it up to a point where you think it looks good, and go ahead and tuck that in on the other side of your lid. So that's how to crochet the Plush Pumpkin Basket. Remember, if you use the Bernat Plush Big, you'll need 3 skeins of your main color, as well as a few yards for whatever you'd like to make the stem in. If you're using the Bernat Plush, you only need 1 skein for your main color, and again, a few yards to make the stem. So whichever you prefer, you're going to get a gorgeous pumpkin basket. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.